Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Today, I'm going to be painting Beach Bouquet, and I'm sipping on some berry tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page, where you're going to find additional painting perks, such as this one. So this painting that I did today was inspired by a photo that was sent in by one of my Patreons by the name of Carol Savluk. I have a benefit for my Patreons where every now and again they get to send in their photos, and I will select some of them to turn into YouTube video tutorials. And as a thank you, I send the original to them for their beautiful inspiration. So if you're interested in learning how you too could submit your photos or anything additional about the Patreon membership program, I have all of that information down below in the video description. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you could certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, Mars black, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, fire red, green oxide, chrome yellow, and ultramarine blue. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like. Let's see, for my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 6 bright synthetic brush. And I have a number 3 round synthetic brush. And I will refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. And of course you can switch those up as well. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will be providing you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link to my shop where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of canvas to paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. You can also purchase from my shop things individually, like my brushes. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting a base coat on our sky, our water, and our beach. There is a little area of land that we'll put on later, but it's very small, so we'll do that later. I'm going to be using my large brush to paint. The colors that I'm going to use are blue, white, brown, yellow, and red. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom sky color that we'll be using. We'll make the sky a little bit darker at the top and lighter as it comes down towards that horizon. Then in the water, we're going to be using blue and brown and white and maybe a little bit of yellow as well. And then we're going to create a custom color for our sand, making a sand tan. So I'm going to use my large brush to paint. I'm going to use my small brush in order to create a couple of custom colors, which I'll demonstrate on my palette. I have magically pre-mixed them here so you can see where I'm headed. This color right here is my sky blue. How I got to that is just blue and white. So no fancy recipe for this, just blue and white, creating myself a nice light blue to have up at the top of the sky, and it'll go even lighter as it goes down towards the horizon line. And then for my sand tan, what I'm going to create is this color right here. So this is mostly white and brown to create a tan color, but for me, my white and brown kind of makes a dull type of almost like a grayish kind of color. So I wanted it to have a little bit more richness in it. So what I did was I added yellow and red. Yellow and red combined makes orange. So I'm in essence kind of adding orange to that tan, to that brown and white, and it's going to create a richer type of color for my sand. It'll create a nice kind of golden tan, like think of it almost like blonde hair kind of a color. So that's going to be my sand tan right there. And then that's only 2 custom colors I'm going to be making. I'm going to put my mixing tool away, take out my large brush. And what I'm first going to do is make myself a couple of little tick marks on the sides of my canvas to know how far down I want my sky to go and how far down I want my water to go. So if I find myself about halfway up or down my left-hand side, so for me this is about my halfway mark, I'm going to go below that about 1 inch, make myself a little tick mark, and above it about 2.5 inches. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So here's my halfway point, here's below 1 inch, and above about 2.5 inches. That'll give me my stopping point for my sky and my stopping point for my water. So I'm going to pick up my light blue color. I'm going to start up at the top of my sky. I'm going to bring this color down, I would say about 1/3 of the way down my sky, and then I'm going to start incorporating white into my color on my canvas, and that way I'll have a nice gradient going down my sky. So maybe that's almost halfway down my sky, but somewhere in that vicinity. Now I'm picking up my light blue plus a bunch of white on my brush, and I'm adding it to that sky, and this is going to create a nice gradient going down towards that horizon. I just picked up just white. I don't need it or want it to go all the way white down to that horizon line, so we will be adding clouds and atmospheric dimension and stuff on this later, but right now I just am going for a kind of a light blue down at the bottom of that sky. So if you're all the way white, I do suggest that you add a little bit of blue back in it. So just somewhere pretty darn light, just bringing it right down to my markers that I made, and then just kind of giving it a quick little blend here before it totally dries. And then once I've got that done, get this little piece out from there. Once I've got that done, I'm going to work on my water. So my water I'm going to have darker at the top, and then it's going to fade down to lighter, and then it's going to fade into my beach. So the beach and the water kind of intermingle with one another. I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to start with blue and brown on my brush. So my horizon line is pretty dark. So wash and dry my brush, pick up a little bit of blue and a little bit of brown, and I'm just going to connect my dots up here, maybe a little bit more blue, and I like to go swiftly across, so that gives me a nice kind of quick way to make a pretty straight horizon. We are going to have land on top of it, so it's okay if it's not perfect. Now I'm going to pick up a bit of blue. I don't know if I said I was going to use, I'm going to use yellow in a little bit, but I'm going to pick up blue plus my light blue on my brush. So this is ultramarine blue plus a touch of light blue. So I'm getting my water to go a little bit lighter as it's coming down my water towards that beach area, and I'm using my dirty brush so I can have those colors kind of intermingle with one another. So this is just my light blue in through here. Now I'm going to start picking up my light blue plus a teeny tiny bit of yellow. When I say teeny tiny bit, I just mean teeny tiny bit. So what this is going to do is it's going to start to create these green tones or greenish tones, these almost teal type of colors in the water. I just picked up a little bit more of my light blue just to get these to intermingle just a little bit more, something like that. Maybe a little bit more ultramarine blue to kind of get these to talk a little bit better together. Just picking up my ultramarine blue, giving myself a little bit more representation of some blue up in through here. And again, we're going to have a second layer on all of these things. So even on your water, we're going to have a second layer on that water. I'm just kind of finessing these tones to be the way that I want them before I move too far down that water. There we go. That's looking pretty good. And now as I'm getting towards this next marker, this is where I'm going to in a second start picking up my beach sand color. So this is looking pretty good in through here. I've got a good coverage. I've got that I'm gonna put a little bit more light blue on top of here. That went a little bit too yellow on me, so just adding back a little bit more of that light blue. There we go. Now I'm digging it. Now what I'm gonna do is, without washing my brush, I'm gonna start picking up my sand tan. And because I'm not washing my brush, this is going to allow me to kind of intermingle it just a little bit. I just wanna kind of lightly brush my brush back and forth right over, cross it over that water area. And that'll get those two to really talk well together. And when I go to put those final details on the water and the sand, I have this nice transitional place where they've met. And that just helps me through that process. And now I'm just going to use my sand tan all the way down the rest of my canvas. And I made my tan a little bit darker than I want my sand to be, because I want to add some dimensional texture to it in my future steps. So I tend to go a little bit darker than I go with my darker tones first usually, because it makes my building process a little bit easier as I'm building dimension and texture and things of that nature. So if your sand looks a little dark at this point, don't worry about it. We're gonna lighten it up and give it some good texture on a future step. So once you've got this done, we are going to be using the same brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna do the second layer on the sky, or we're gonna finish the sky. We'll put the clouds on in a second, in another step. So we're gonna finish just the sky part, the water, and the beach. I'm using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm gonna use are my sky blue, green, white, maybe a little bit, definitely a little bit of brown, and my sand tan and ultramarine blue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be creating a light greenish blue that I'm going to use as kind of an accent to this gradient up in the sky, as well as in my water. We'll be creating little ripple waves just on this left hand side, because this whole right side is going to be covered by our bouquet and the drapery, and then we'll put some additional texture on our sand in the important spots. So on my palette, I have pre-mixed my light, what we're going to call it light blue green, or let's call it light, light blue green. This is it right in through here. How I got to this is I just used some of my sky blue and added a touch of green to it. So what I'm looking to do is create this almost like a seafoam type of a color that will be an accent to the atmosphere in the sky, as well as add to the effects of my waves. So this is the color I'm going for here. What I'm going to do on my sky is I'm going to start up at the top with a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my sky blue. I'm going to fade it down into that light greenish blue or bluish green, and then I'm going to just kind of lightly do a second coat down at the bottom. Just a second coat to add lots of atmospheric dimension. And same thing on my water. I really just want to get a couple more little ripples in there and get some more information on this side and a little bit over in through here. And then in my sand, I just want another textural element to it, and maybe add a little bit of dirt kind of where the wave is coming into the land. So I'm going to start up at my sky. I'm starting with a touch of ultramarine blue and my sky blue on my brush at the same time. I don't need a lot of paint for this particular step, because I'm really just kind of doing another layer on top of my existing layer to give it a little bit more dimension or atmospheric dimension. So as you're going through your process, don't feel that you have to, really super load up your brush. But as I go into this section, you'll notice I just picked up my light greenish blue kind of color. You'll notice the sky is going to start taking on a different type of visual effect. in through here. So to me, a lot of times, I'm putting a little bit of water on my brush too. To me, a lot of times when I'm seeing the sky, it tends to get a little bit warmer as it's going down towards that horizon line to me, which is where I just picked up some white as well with my light greenish blue. As I often am noticing in that sky, I just see that transition from it being almost like a cooler blue up at the top to a warmer blue down at the bottom of the sky. So as I'm watching these photographs, because this one is based off of a photo reference, I try to detect those type of gradients in the sky, and if I can see them, I definitely implement them. I just picked up a little bit more white just so I can get this to go all the way down to the horizon, mixing it in with my kind of my light greenish blue in through here, and this is going to give me a nice realistic type of effect. And just lightly kind of blending these to make sure that they transition into one another the way that I'm looking for them to do. And of course, you can certainly add more of the greenish blue. You could even use a cobalt blue intermingled in this sky, so don't feel that you have to use the same exact color choices as I'm using, but if you can somehow go from a cooler blue up at the top to a warmer type of a blue down at the bottom, that would make it look more realistic. So then as I go, I might actually, sorry, before I go further, I want this top. I just picked up some more ultramarine blue. I want this to go just a little bit darker up into here. So once I've got this done, I'm gonna work on my water. So I'm washing and drying my brush again. I'm going to start with blue, ultramarine blue, and a touch of green on my brush. So right up at the top, this is going to give me a little bit of additional kind of dimension onto this water up at the top. You could, of course, do any color combination that you want, and if you want it to look more like a lake, it might have, you know, more deeper tones in it. If you want it to look more tropical, it might have more of those greener tones in it, those like teal, aqua type of type of colors. Wherever your visual preference is steering you, feel free to do it. This center area, again, is not super important because it's going to be all hidden with our flower bouquet and stuff, but the left and the right do appear visible in the photograph. So I'm picking up some of my light bluish green plus a touch of white as I'm coming down towards this, down towards where it's going to meet the land, and I'm just kind of scooting my brush back and forth, left to right, giving myself a little bit of texture in that water. Same thing over on this side, just kind of giving myself just a little bit of texture. I don't need it to be anything fancy, just something that's going to show a little bit more movement in that water as it's meeting the land. In the photo, there's a little kind of greenish wave kind of coming in here, so I just picked up a little bit more green on my dirty brush. I'm just going to kind of scoot this in here, just so, again, I'm going off of a photo reference and I'd like it to be pretty authentic, so that's what I'm seeing in the reference, so that's what I'm going to put in through there. And then right underneath it, there's a little bit of a wave, so I need to wash and dry my brush because I have green on it right now and the wave is white, so that's not going to work out for me. So I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm picking up just a teeny tiny bit of white paint on the tip of my brush. I'm going to just give myself a little kind of bright area in through here, representing, and I'm kind of dabbing my brush to represent a little bit of the movement of that little ripple that's coming in. There's a little lighter spot in through here, and then it kind of fades into, like, looks like a wet part of the sand. So I'm going to actually pick up a little bit of my sky blue and just kind of put this in through here, just give myself a little representation of the color that I'm seeing in the photo. And then I think I need to pull a little bit of my beach sand right above that, or in between those little marks. So wash and dry my brush, just picking up a little bit of my beach sand and putting this right in here. I think I'm going to go beach sand plus a touch of white, just to give myself a little bit lighter. There we go, a little lighter version of that beach sand in through there. So once I've got that, that's all I need to do over in this little section. I just want to do another layer on my beach sand. So I've got my beach sand plus a little bit of white on my brush right now, so I can just kind of start this in through here. I'm probably going to pick up even more white just to get this nice and light in through here. And I have this great dark base, so I don't really need to do much to it, or a dirty kind of sand type of a color. I just really want to add a little bit of texture to it. So adding this second layer, I know this entire right side is going to be covered by my by the cloth, so I'm just going to kind of fade this out like this so I don't have a firm separation line. And then as I come down the sand in through here, you could even kind of start dotting it. I feel like my sand might be a little bit too yellow right now too, so I'm going to actually add a tiny bit of red into it just to bring it into a little bit less yellowy of a tone. So that helped with a little bit of white on my brush. So this is gonna, you can see as I did that, it turned it more of like a peachy, not a peachy type of look, but definitely less yellow in it. And then this is, I'm gonna just intermingle this. You can dot it, you can rub it, you can circle it, you can do whatever's visually appealing to you for the textural type of element for it, but this sand is not the focal point of the painting. So for me, just allowing it to have some of these textural elements and just get it to kind of fade out over here on this right hand side. It's going to imply sand. It doesn't have to be, you know, you don't need to see every single little grain of the sand, but I do want a little lighter spots here and there, so I just picked up a little bit of white as this is drying. I can just kind of pop on a little bit extra light spots, and then there is a little kind of dark area up by that wave that I want to incorporate as well. This is looking pretty good to me, so I'm feeling pretty good about the way that I've created this textural type of element on this sand. And I, in essence, kind of did three very just muted tones of brown. I used that golden color that we created. Then I added a little bit of red to it to give it a little bit more of a pinky tone. And then with my white, that created those different depth layers. I'm picking up a touch of brown now. There's a little kind of spot in through here in the photo that's just looks like there might be some piled up little sand and stuff in through here. So I'm just kind of adding these little kind of elements, these little dots of color in order to emulate that. And I'm thinking that that's pretty good. I might do some little details later after I get my whole bouquet on and stuff, but I'm thinking that I've got everything on here enough to translate what I needed to translate. I just washed my brush. I'm picking up a tiny bit more white just to get just a little bit more lightness in the sand in through here. And then I'm going to be using my, I'm going to use this brush for the next step. So you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint some clouds and a hill. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are white, blue, brown, and green. And for my clouds, I'm going to predominantly use white because these are, I don't often just use white for my clouds, but these clouds in this photo are light and white and just kind of drifting by in a nice gentle way. So I might get away with just using white for them. If I need to pull out any other colors, I certainly will. And then I'm going to put this little hill on back here. In the photo, I can only imagine what the hill is doing in the middle because the big bouquet is covering it. So we're going to kind of just improvise in the center, but we'll give a little distant hill in the background. I might pull out my bright brush for this, but I'm going to attempt with my bristle brush first. So I'm going to start with some white paint. I'm going to do my clouds first. I've got this big cloud kind of adorning the top of the canvas in through here. There's very soft edges to them, but I can, in some spots, I can see the sky right, you know, peekaboo spot right through it. I'm going to just add a thin layer right now of these clouds, and then once they dry a little bit, I can add a little bit more to them. But right now, just kind of dotting them on, rubbing them on as I kind of see them in the photo. So there's a little one over in through here with very soft, kind of wispy, dissipated information around it. And because I'm not using a lot of paint on my brush, the thinness of the paint is going to take on the colors that are underneath it. So that helps to build these clouds in a pretty believable way. There's a little tiny one somewhere in through here, and you don't have to put every single cloud exactly as you see it, but for me, I like to put the challenge on myself to kind of get it pretty darn similar to what I'm seeing in the photo, but you certainly don't have to do that. I'm doing my top ones first. Again, in the center of this sky, it's really tough to detect where they all are because of the obstruction of the big bouquet that's in front, but I'm just kind of having fun trying to discover and paint these little clouds on here. We got a couple of little drifty ones over in through here like this, and there are no two sky color patterns exactly alike. So as you're going through yours, if you want to make yours different, please, by all means, go ahead and make it different. This one I brought up a little bit higher, I think, than it needed to be anyways, so just feel free to make it your own. That's looking pretty good. I think there's kind of a big one over in this vicinity behind the bouquet like that, and then there's some little tiny ones down at the horizon line. So I'm just going to put these little kind of bright pockets of spots in through here, something like that, and then there's a couple over in this area in through here. So I'm going to let that dry for a minute. I'm going to amp up the top ones after I get the hill on here, but I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good for now. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. And my hill, I just need it muted kind of colors far away. So I'm actually going to put blue, brown, green, and a touch of white on my brush at the same time. So just a teeny tiny touch of blue, a teeny tiny touch of green, teeny tiny touch of brown, and a teeny tiny touch of white. So I just kind of layered those four colors on my brush. And for me, I'm going to start over here on this right hand side. It's a real skinny kind of piece of land in through here, and then it just kind of slowly juts up like this. I'm going to just kind of tap my brush right at that horizon line. I'll make it more have more definition to it in a minute. I just want to kind of get it on here. This center area, again, it doesn't matter what it is because it's going to be all hidden behind that bouquet, but just to have something there to give you that visible or visual sense of where to connect it on the other side will help you to work your way through it. So again, just all four colors on my brush, little bits of each, and because I use the colors on my brush at the same time, I'm going to get various tones throughout these throughout this area, which to me looks more natural than just one solid color. And then I'm just going to kind of bump this down and just ride it along this little area in through here. I think it bumps up just a little bit on this edge like that. And if this brush was too big for you, you could certainly move to that bright brush, which I was thinking I might need to, but I'm not quite certain at this point if I'm going to. But again, if you felt that it was necessary for you to do so, feel free. And I'm just adding a little bit more blue into it so it pushes it back a little bit further into my scenery. Just picking up a little bit more blue on this side. And then if you felt that you wanted to put any of the little definition of little houses or anything like that, you could certainly speckle in lighter areas. I'm going to put just a little bit lighter area over here at the top of this hill with a little bit of green and white, just to get a little more representation of what I'm seeing in that photo. That looks pretty good. And then I don't really need to do much more to this area. There are little tiny white dots and stuff for buildings, maybe just a tiny little representation of a couple of little buildings in through there, and maybe at that shoreline a little bit lighter, but that's looking good. I'm gonna now add a touch more white to my cloud, so washing and drying my brush and picking up a teeny bit more white paint. Get these on a little bit brighter up in through here, and you can certainly just continue to amp up this color on the clouds. The more layers that you put, especially the thicker the layer, the brighter it's going to appear to be. You could certainly add different tones into it if you want, but again, the clouds that I'm seeing in this picture are pretty darn white, so you could, of course, you know, feel free to make yours as white as you want, but I'm going all the way white on some of these, just because, again, that's what I'm seeing in the picture. So I'm just kind of picking those spots that I feel are super white in the picture, and then just in the photograph, and then just emulating that on the painting. And then once you've got this done, we are going to be using our drawing utensil for the next step. So you can wash or put this brush away. Just seeing if I want any more little amped up areas over in through here. It's looking pretty good, I think. So you can put this large brush away, take out a drawing utensil, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna draw an outline for our objects. So this is going to be the pole, the curtain, and the bouquet. I'm going to be using my chalk. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you, and I do recommend that your canvas is dry before you start this step. So I'm going to guide you through a series of markers. We're going to be connecting those markers. This outline is going to be a super loose outline because there's so many little areas within that bouquet that it doesn't make sense to me to outline every single piece. So I just really want to give myself a good idea where the bouquet is going to go. And I'm more concerned at this point about the greenery in the bouquet as opposed to the flowers, because I'm going to be painting the majority of the greenery first, and then I'm going to place the flowers within it. So any flowers that are sticking out in the exterior, I'm not even going to be concerned about those at the moment. I'm just thinking greenery at this point. So first I'm going to start with my pole, because everything is resting on the pole or tied to the pole. So I'm going to find myself the center of the top of my canvas, give myself a marker, and then I'm going to do the same thing down at the bottom. Give myself a marker somewhere at the center of my canvas. And then I'm just going to connect these two with a loose kind of straight line. It's the pole in this photograph is like a bamboo type of a post. So it's got some bumps and stuff on it. So you don't need this to be perfect. Then I'm going to go about an inch to the left, give myself another marker, and about an inch to the left, give myself another marker. And then I can connect these two something like this. So that's going to be the start of this. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the greenery, or just a loose interpretation of the greenery, on here. So I've got all kinds of pieces that are sticking out here and there, but what I'm going to do is just kind of give myself, I'm going to look at my pole and say, okay, how high is the highest thick stuff and how low is the lowest thick greenery stuff? So for me, there is a big flower that kind of hangs down over here, but the greenery behind the flower, I would say, kind of comes somewhere in like this area. I'm just going to kind of give myself some loose little markers of sorts to give myself an idea of where I want these this green stuff to happen. So again, nothing perfect, just something that's going to give me a basis. Again, I'm going to have a big flower like hanging in between here. So as I'm going through this, I'm saying, okay, where's another big exterior greenery piece? And there's a big, huge green leaf somewhere over in this direction. So I can use that as kind of an anchoring type of a point. And then there's a couple of like pointy pieces underneath that. There's another greenery piece somewhere over in through here, so I can use that. So I'm kind of keeping them connected, so that way when I go to paint in, I've got a solid shape that I can paint in. So it kind of travels up in through here. There's a couple little green pieces sticking out here and there. There's above where this wave is, or in this wave direction, there's a couple of little pieces that stick out here. Let's see, I'm going to just kind of travel up. I want to not go too high or too low, so I'm looking at the photo, and I would say right about in through here is where the greenery kind of ends on this side of the pole for the height, and then it kind of travels up. There's like a big piece of greenery in through here, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff that like sticks up in the sky, something like this. We don't even need to do that right now. That's just something that I can use to kind of close off where as high as I want this to go. I'm going to switch to a pencil so you can see in this area up and through here, because it looks a little bit light up there for you guys to see. So just kind of giving myself a couple little maybe carefree little marks for some of the leaves that I'm seeing up in through here. And again, these are all going to be tucked behind some of the flowers. So I'm just kind of giving myself these little shoots of information where I want this to go. There's a big long one in through here, and just some stuff coming down in through here. So this kind of closes off this side, tells me where I want my greenery to go, and I'm doing the same thing over on the other side. So this side is going to be kind of hidden partially underneath that curtain, but I still need that color sitting behind the curtain. So I've got a couple of big ones that kind of shoot off in through here like this, and then all down here is hidden under the curtain. So all I'm going to do is just give myself kind of a wavy type of a line, and this will give me again an area, a contained area that I can color in with my paint. I'm going to erase this center pole with a little bit. You could use a paper towel with a little bit of water, or your brush with a little bit of water, and just erase. Because I use chalk, I can very easily erase this. Now I have myself a very large mass of an area that I can start my bouquet with just my dark greenery stuff, and then we'll add flowers inside of it. My curtain, this is going to be mostly aside and above my bouquet, but there is a piece that wraps on top of it. I'm going to put that on later. That's going to be like a final detail. But I do want to know where the rest of the curtain is going to go. So I'm going to go a little bit to the right of the top of my pole. Let me just kind of re-identify this so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go a little bit to the right of that, and then just kind of scoot this down, give myself a little area that it kind of meets that pole in through there. And then I'm going to go to the right of this, almost about halfway between here, and give myself the other top portion. This is going to tuck right behind here, so I can just give it a big kind of, let's see, we got it somewhere in this vicinity is going to give me my curve like that. And then down this right hand side, this is all going to be tucked behind here. So I'm just going to kind of come out maybe a little bit wherever this little green piece is, and just kind of scoot a curved line down like that. And then down here, I'm going to come up about halfway between the bottom of my canvas and where my sand meets the water, so somewhere in this vicinity. And I'm just going to give this a big kind of curved, wavy line down towards the bottom of my canvas. So this way I know that this whole area is curtain, this is curtain. We'll do a little piece of a curtain that overlaps some of our bouquet later. And I've got my mass area for my greenery, and then my pole. So we're going to be using our medium brush for the next step. So once you've got this in here, You can make any little adjustments that you want. Take out your medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the base coat for our pole, our bouquet, and our curtain. I'm going to use my medium brush to paint, but I'm going to use my small brush to pre-mix some colors. So I need a wood color for my pole, so I'm going to be using my sand tan, red, yellow, brown to make that. I need a base coat for my curtain, so I'm going to make just a light gray for that, which is black and white. And then I'm going to do a dark green as a base coat for my greenery. I'll do that with green and black. So I'm going to pre-mix these colors on my palette. I've got two of them. I need to make a third, but here's my wood color. We'll call this oak. So how I got to this was I used a little bit of my sand tan, and then I added red and red and yellow, which is orange, a touch of brown, and just started mixing it together and then adjusting it as I needed. So this is a little bit too light, so I would add more pigment into it, which is more brown, more red, and more yellow, because my sand tan had a lot of white in it. And then I just keep adjusting it until I get it into that value that I'm looking for. So this is pretty close. I feel like I need a little bit more yellow in it. And that's looking great. So something like this, and you can always test it out on your canvas to see if it's the color that you're looking for. This is just like a bamboo type of a wood color. For generic purposes, I call it oak. All wood is oak to me. I don't know why. It's a common color that we can identify with, I think, when we're talking about oak wood. So that's that. I have a light gray in through here. So this I got to with just white and a teeny tiny touch of black paint. I'm looking for just a light gray. That's a little bit too dark. Add a little bit more white into there. And it can be, I mean, I'm using my dirty white. It doesn't need to be any perfect shade of gray. We're going to actually be using it with watered down version of it. So this is just going to get our curtains started. So that's looking good. I do want a dark green for my greenery as well. So I'm going to do that with green. You know what? I'm not going to do a premix color for this. I'm going to use black and green on my brush at the same time to do that. So we're not going to premix a dark green. We're going to do it on the canvas. So I've got my custom oak color. I'm going to start with that on my pole. So I'm just painting it in. The pole to me seems pretty darn straight, but up at the top there looks like there's a little kind of bump in it. So I will emulate that. I'm going to go just right to my guidelines. If you could certainly go right to, up to them if you wanted to. The guidelines sometimes just help me stay within the lines. So up here, just gonna bring this down, and then I'll bump out the little area in a second that I see in the photo. So this is just coming down right into what's gonna be my greenery. So just bringing this right down into there. And then there's a little kind of bump out part, I would say somewhere in this vicinity. So I'm just going to kind of bump out oh, that was a little bit too much. It's okay. We'll do the same thing on the other side and pretend like we did it on purpose. So there we go. Actually, that's not too bad. Just kind of bump it out just a little bit in through there and in through there. That works for me. And then I'm going to, what part am I going to do next? I'm going to do the curtain next because I feel that this sits behind that more, so I'm going to do this. And remember, this curtain is the part that's on the other side of the bouquet. We'll do the front one in a little while. So I have my gray mixture. I do not want to just paint this whole thing gray because I want there to be some transparency where you can see part of the sky behind it. Not much up top. It is kind of concentrated up top, but there's little spots in through here where you can kind of see little peekaboo spots of the water. And then down in through here, we're going to layer this on this with brighter tones. But I definitely want to have some a little bit of darkness in through there. So I'm going to use my gray plus a little bit of water on my brush. So a little bit of water is going to help me just to kind of control myself and to keep the transparency of this. Remember, I am going to be doing a future step to modify this. This is really just getting it started, so I have a place to work from, especially since I'm going to be doing that bouquet in front of it. That's really gonna this first step on here is just really going to help stabilize me as I'm building that big bouquet in front of it. So I'm not going to do much to this part right now, just getting it on here. I feel like I want to drop this a little bit further. I feel like it's a little bit too high on the water. In the photo, it looks like there might be a little bit more gap. So I'm going to just drop this a little bit further like this. I'll erase my chalk in a minute, and then just bring this down right to my water. So just dropped it a little bit, something like that. And again, it's going to go behind my greenery. So I'm okay with painting over my little guideline right now for my greenery, but I do want this to kind of still be a little transparent. So I'm going to just use it with gray with a little bit of water. So I have a droplet of water on my palette. It's usually how I like to, I mean, a lot of times I use that to thin out my paint. Down in through here, this is a pretty big mass of the concentrated bright fabric in through here. So as I come down in through here, I feel like this is where it's gonna start to kind of bend and stuff. So again, I'm just kind of getting an idea of how this is laying down and how I can form this whole thing. There's a couple of little ripply pieces underneath here. So again, just trying to get an idea of how these ripples are gonna play out on here. So this is helping getting the party started for me. A little bit heavier on the paint coming out of this corner in through here. So again, in the photo, I'm seeing it's pretty darn concentrated down at the bottom, the fabric, and then it's a little bit thinner or more transparent in between some of these ripples. So that's why I'm kind of hitting it heavier in some areas and thinner in other areas. So that's looking pretty good to me. I'm going to just erase this chalk line here so it doesn't bother me later. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my base coat for my greenery. So for me, as I'm looking at the photo reference, it's pretty dark in the middle. And then as the leaves come out and towards the exterior of the bouquet, they get lighter and lighter. There's still some dark areas, but I'm gonna do a lot of black and green in the middle, and then as I get towards the exterior, I'll be doing more of just green. So I'm gonna pick up both black and green. And in the middle area, I don't see any way that it would be necessary at this point to do any exact leaves, because we're going to be putting flowers on top of them. So all I'm going to be doing is kind of putting in a dark area in this center, and then as I get towards the exterior areas, that's when I'm going to start to give myself these little the illusion of maybe these little kind of leaf tips. And again, knowing what I know, that I'm going to be coming back and doing all kinds of detail on here, I'm not concerned about this being perfect right now. I am just kind of giving myself a footprint to work from. And whenever I'm doing bouquets and things of that nature, where you could very easily get lost in all of the minute little details to it, I try to refrain. I try to hold back. I'm not always super successful at getting every, at refraining from doing every little tiny thing, but I know that if I, spent the time to create every single leaf, you could legitimately spend, weeks, months, a year on painting just to get all those little tiny fine-tuned details. So it's a matter of how far do you personally want to take it. Again, on this side, I don't really need to even worry about the edges of the leaves because they're just going to disappear behind that cloth. So as you're finding your rhythm and finding what speaks to you as visually appealing, and how do you like to look at your, let me just see how far I want this one to go. How do you like to look at your paintings and things of that nature? You can certainly, you know, find your mental place where it makes you happy to, the level of detail that you want to bring it. So again, I'm just kind of watching the photo and saying, okay, well, there's a pointy one up and through here. We've got a little tiny one coming up and through here with some little things that offshoot. Ooh, they go right in front of that. We're going to bring some of those fun things in there. A couple back here. And so again, I'm going to do another layer on my pole too, so that was probably unnecessary for me to do that there, but I couldn't resist. So those are the challenges that I face when I'm doing stuff like this, is when to hold back, when to push forward and give every little detail. So it's a tough balance when you want to do paintings of this nature, because it's hard to know when to stop and to know how far to push those boundaries and how far to bring those details. Like right here, I know I'm going to have a huge flower right in through here. So why am I going to do a lot of detail back there? I'm not. I'm just going to kind of get some kind of greenery, so when I do put my flower, I've got a believable edge behind it. So I like to build my paintings from the back forward, and when doing a painting such as this, where there's lots of back and forth, it's tough to decide what's going to go in back of what. So that's the challenge, you know. And I don't like to outline every single little fine-tuned detail and work it like it's a paint by number, because to me that doesn't work well for the way that I paint. So I have to, I like to do the painterly thing and paint looser and give myself the freedom of changing a leaf or adding a special color, or, you know, doing things that are pleasing to my eye. And if I was to sit and take a photograph and just say, okay, I need to paint every single little thing one for one in here, I'd go crazy. Like, it's just not for, you know, because I know my brain really wants to, and it would just take me too long to do it. And I don't want to spend that kind of time on a photorealistic detail, when to me I want to paint something that is more artistic and original in a style. So I like doing the painterly thing and kind of giving it my own. So I'm thinking that I've got a pretty good breadth of the area that I want for my greenery and stuff. I'm putting just a little bit more darkness in through here. We will, like I said, fine tune this and have another layer on it, but I'm thinking that that's a pretty good start for getting those a base onto here. So what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be using our small brush. So you can put this medium brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the pole. I'm using my small brush. The colors that I'm going to use are brown, white, and my oak color. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So I'm going to start with a little bit of brown and water on my brush. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put in place this little bump thing. So it's just a kind of a curved line in the center of this bump that I did. And again, these are the kind of details. It's like, do you want them? Do you not want them? You are the steerer of this painting ship. So if you want it, you do it. If you want all these details. So I see another little kind of mark of sorts up at the top like this. So I'm just going to kind of put it in here. So again, I'm brown with a little bit of water on my brush. It kind of scoots up in through here, looking for any other dark areas. So I do see some darkness in my pole in through here because it's being shadowed by the bouquet. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to wipe this wet green away though, because that's going to bother me. So we're just going to wipe that away, blow dry it. and paint over it. We can paint those little stems or those little leaves on top later. I don't know why I put them there last step. They were unnecessary. I just did it because I couldn't resist. So I'm just painting some shadow right here, which is going to be underneath those. And then I will pick up some of my oak color to just get this to blend in here. I think I want a little bit more brown here. This is going to be also underneath my my little curtain too. So just getting that to blend in like that. And then I'm going to put some shadow down here at the bottom. So a little bit of brown. This is going to be, there's going to be a bunch of flowers here. So I'm going to go pretty dark for quite a ways in through here, because I know that my flower, I have one flower that's going to be kind of almost down to here. So it's going to be casting a shadow underneath here. And I don't want to worry about missing. I mean, I might have to modify it later, but we're going to try and just get it right now. I just picked up some more of my oak color just to get this to blend out a little bit. And that's looking pretty good. I'm going to just pick up more of my oak to finish this bottom part out in through here. And again, this is one of those, I put in a little water on my brush. This is one of those areas down at the bottom here. It's not going to be stealing the show. So if you aren't totally satisfied with the full-on details of it, it's all right, because it's just kind of a little accent piece to the whole painting. You could also add a tiny highlight on that edge if you feel that it's not standing out enough. You could either make it darker, or I just put a tiny bit of white paint on my brush just to get that edge to, oh, that's not good enough. Adding a little bit more. Just to get that edge to pop out a little bit if you wanted to. It's not necessary, but if you study photos really closely, sometimes you can see these little like ghost highlights and stuff along the edges to make them pop. Up at the top, I'm going to pick up some of my oak color with a little bit of white in order to get this little piece right here to pop out, this little strange marking thing in through there. Then I'm going to pick up some more of my oak color, give myself a second layer in through here. Just make sure I have that fully rendered. I'm going to pick up a little bit, I think I need a little bit more brown too. So oak plus my brown, feel like this is a little bit darker back here. So just oak plus the brown, just give it a little bit more depth back there. Now a little bit more of my oak. And again, I'm just kind of doing this improv, just making, putting these light spots and dark spots as I'm seeing them in the photo, and then just making sure I have a nice second coat on it. So if you miss any spots, feel free to take care of them. And then I need to make sure that my chalk is fully gone. So I just put a little bit of water on my brush to get rid of my chalk, and in doing so, I'm noticing some spots that I missed. So I'm going to pick up some of that oak color. I think I'm going to pick up a little bit of white as well. I feel like this right side is a little bit lighter in the photo, so I just picked up oak plus my white to get the right side of this pole just a little bit lighter. So that works. And then up here too. And then you can just fiddle with it as much as you want. When you feel like you're all set, we're going to be using our piece of chalk for the next step. So you can put this brush away, take out a drawing utensil, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to draw an outline for our flowers. I'm using my piece of chalk. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that is comfortable to you. I am going to be doing a very loose outline for my flowers. Again, trying not to get caught up and lost in all of the fine-tuned detail. When I'm doing bouquets and things of that nature, especially when I'm kind of trying to model them after a photo, what I like to do is kind of visually identify the different types of flowers. So in this particular photo, we have lilies, There's some Hawaiian tropical flowers that are called pink flamingos, and then there's these other ones that are called pink ginger flowers. So they're fun. They're like all Hawaiian type of flowers. So I've identified kind of 3 basic flowers. There's a couple of colorful leaves in there too that I couldn't detect were parts of flowers, but what I'm going to be doing is just giving very basic outlines for these color masses that I'm seeing in the photograph, and identifying them with, this is a lily, this is a lily, this is one of the ginger flowers. And in my head, when I'm doing that, I'll know when I go to do my base coat that I'm going to assign a base coat for each of them. So when I'm also doing these, I tend to do my bigger sections first, the biggest flowers that I see, the ones that are taking up the most area, and then I work my way towards the smaller ones. Usually the bigger ones are going to be the front ones that are the closest to the viewer, so that's where I'm going to start. So I have a big ginger one that's in the front here, so I think it's somewhere right in the kind of, if you find yourself almost the center of the bouquet, a little bit to the left. And it kind of just goes up in these little kind of cone or bumpy type of way up the sides, same thing like this. It almost looks like a pink pine cone in my professional opinion. So that one's kind of sticking straight up. There's another one kind of in this area down in through here. So I've got so if this is the bottom of the kind of bouquet type of area, I'm up just a little bit from that, I would say somewhere in this vicinity, and it's kind of sideways like this, something like this, and I'm just going to kind of bump a couple of these petals out like this, and this one's kind of laying down this way. So there's going to be some leaves and stuff that cross over it, like that. I think there's a leaf that crosses over it in through here and here. So if you can see that kind of detail, to just give yourself have a mark that you've connected all of the edges. So when you go to paint the base coat, you're just painting in this one section. That helps me to kind of solidify things. I have another one of these ginger ones kind of coming down this base in through here. It kind of crosses over in through here, so something like that. It's going to go up underneath a lily of sorts. So I'm going to leave that end open because there's a little, well, I can just kind of give you the tip like that. So those are going to be those cone or the ginger flowers, the pink ones that we're going to do later. I think that I need to bump this out just a little bit like that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now there's oh, actually, I think there's another one over here somewhere in this vicinity. I'm going to say somewhere right in through here. There's another one of these ginger type of flowers. I think that looks good in through there, something like that. It's tucked behind those leaves. So now I'm going to identify where my pink or my flamingo type of flowers are. It says pink, but I think they're kind of red in this photo. So we're going to call them red flamingos instead of pink flamingos. So they're pretty circular in shape. I've got this one back here. It's tucked behind this one. There's also another little sliver of one back in through here. I'm just seeing a couple of little sliver pieces of it. Let me use my pencil again so you can just see this little crossover piece in through here. So just a couple of little slivers of it up and through there. I think there's another couple hidden behind here, so I'm just going to section off this little red section that's going to pop behind those. And I think that's all I see for the those red things, the flamingo ones. There's a couple of red leaves that I'm seeing just sporadically. So while I'm on the red flamingo flowers, I'm going to pop in these red leaves too. So there's one that kind of pops out over and through here. I'll use my pencil up here so you can see where that is. There's another strange little red leaf down here that I'm just going to pop on in through there. And then there's a red leaf that kind of comes in through here. So again, I don't need to do anything super fancy. Just kind of identifying where these flowers are. And I'm looking at the photo now. I am seeing another one of these ginger flowers underneath my curtain over in through here. So I'm going to just pop this one in here. It's just some bumpy, the edge of it is kind of bumpy in through here. So just going to kind of give that its space that it needs. It's going to hide underneath that curtain anyways. But that's good. Now I see a whole bunch of lilies. So the lilies in this are white. There's some white pink ones, and then there's some orange yellow ones. So I'm just going to call them all lilies right now. And then, because they're pretty much similar flowers, they're just different colors. And we've got a bunch of them, and they're in real different shapes. So I see that there's one that kind of pops out over in through here. So I'm just going to kind of give myself this exterior shape for this lily. There's another kind of odd one over in through here. So it's kind of really like strangely pointy. It's just the angle that it's being shown at. There's some of it that pops out behind like this, and then there's some of it that just kind of is in this area. So this whole thing's going to be a lily. There's an orange lily over in through here that is going to kind of sit next to this red thing. So this red flower. So I'm going to just kind of pull out those little colors. There's another lily that sits really awkwardly in through here. So I'm going to just give it a loose interpretation of the petals. So there's a big petal that comes out up and through there. There's a big petal that comes and crosses over in through here like that. There's another petal that kind of comes and almost kind of crosses over in through here. There's another petal that comes out over in through here, and then there's another big petal that kind of let's see, what is this doing? It's kind of looping around something like that. I know this is going to look a little confusing at this point, but again, in my head, I'm keeping these flowers straight. I know these are my ginger flowers. I know these long ones with the pointy petals are my lilies. I know that the circular ones are the flamingo ones. So I can keep my head straight when I'm looking at this because of those kind of petal distinctions. There is a lily that's kind of closed that's sitting down in this vicinity. So I'm just going to kind of put the little, it almost looks like a closed tulip of sorts in through there. There's also a little pop of the tip of one of these orange lilies right in through here. So just kind of sectioning that off. There's another lily hiding underneath here. So we're just going to kind of pop on. I got a petal there. There's a petal there, and then this connects to this petal here, and then there's a petal that pops out over in this direction, and it hides right behind that flower in through there. There's another lily underneath here, so I'm just going to kind of put my little edges to my petals in through there, and then this one's going to be again underneath that curtain, so we're just going to kind of add that in through there. And I think that's it. We got lily, lily, lily. I got a red, red, red. I think I got them all. If I didn't, I can add the little colors later. But what we're going to be doing for the next step is we will be using our medium brush. So again, your flowers do not have to be exactly the same spot as mine. Think of it as 3 different types of flowers. And then we're going to use our medium brush to put the base coat on next. So you can just get ready. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for our flowers. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors that I'm going to use are red, white, yellow, and maybe a little bit of brown. What I'm going to do is, based on my outline, I'm going to just identify each flower with one base color, and then we will build the details on after that. But we want to have some sort of base color so we can just forge forward and understand which ones are which. Now, I work with student grade paint, which tends to be a little transparent or translucent. So, for instance, when I do this guy up and through here, I'm going to be using red paint, but it's going to be transparent and you're going to see behind it. I'm okay with that at this stage. So just know that when that happens, don't worry. So I'm going to start with my red paint and I'm going to find all of my red flowers. So this is going to be my, the flamingo ones. I'm going to start with those, and as I get to one of the neighboring flowers, I'm just going to kind of pull it in between. If there's some petals that are overlapping, I'll just kind of work it around those. Again, nothing perfect. Even this circle doesn't even have to be perfect. I was seeing that some of them are almost even pointy at the edges of these type of flowers, but we're just going to go with something similar to what I'm seeing in the photo. This one kind of tucks behind there. I have this little section over here that had a couple of these. So I think the most difficult thing about painting flower bouquets is there's just so much information. It's really hard to decipher what you want to keep, what you don't want to keep. I'm thinking that that might want to be a leaf right there, so I'm going to not paint in through there. So it's really difficult to determine that. That's why I try and edit myself and not get lost in the details. This was one of those red, long, pointy red leaves, so I'm just going to kind of start that with some red paint. There was another long red leaf somewhere in through here, so I'm going to stick that on there. And now I have my, there was this other weird little red leaf in through here. I don't even know what this one was attached to, but it's just out there. It's a bouquet. I'm sure there was other maybe parts of flowers that I'm just not seeing in the photo that might have been on the other side of the bouquet or something. So that's looking pretty good. Now I want to do my ginger ones. So those ones I'm going to be using light red as my base coat. So I've pre-mixed my light red. How I got to it, it's right here on my palette, is red with a little bit of white. So my red is very red, and when I add white to it, it just turns into this nice light red color. If yours turns too pink on you, you could certainly add a little bit of yellow to it to turn it into the light red. But some of these flowers that we're going to be darkening some of the tones anyways. I just want to give them a base color so I have somewhere to start. So these have these little kind of round little petals to them. They're really hardy petals though. It looks like they're almost like what's the word I'm looking for? Artichoke type petals. So if you want to make them pretty firm, I'm just using my brush and kind of pushing it. Because my paint is transparent, I can start this textural process and I can see some of that detail already. So that's a fun thing when you are working with a transparent type of paint. I mean, I do have white in here, so that does help with my opacity, but if I'm working on a dark base, I can certainly kind of start that process if I can. Like, it doesn't work on the light area, but it'll work on the dark area. So what you can, whatever works to expedite your process. So that's good. I've got this guy in through here, but I'm seeing that it looks like there's another one like tucked under behind it. So I'm going to and then there's a couple of leaves that cross over it. So we're just going to kind of play with just sticking some of these little leaves on in this direction and giving myself the edge of the flower in some manner if I can. That's looking pretty good. Let me just stick a couple more on in through there, and then I have a big one down here. So this sits right behind this lily petal, so I'm going to just kind of paint around that lily petal. And there's so many different ways to approach this type of painting. You could certainly go in and do just one of the flowers at once, work your way and building that one type of flower, and then go pick another type and work it that way. and build them in a similar way, and you'll get that great dimensional element, but I'm choosing to kind of just do them one layer at a time on each of them and building them that way. We have another one right here, so let me just pop this color on in through here, and I'm going to do another layer to the leaves too, the greenery, so I'm not concerned about if I bump into that right now. I think I've got all my red stuff and my light red stuff, so now I'm going to wash and dry my brush. My lilies are two different tones. I have one of them that are this white and magenta-y, purpley kind of color, and then I have another set of them that is orange. So I'm going to do my orange ones first. I have pre-mixed myself an orange color on my palette. How I got to this is a little bit of red, quite a bit of yellow, and a teeny tiny touch of white paint. So this is going to get me this nice orange that I'll be able to start these lilies with. So this works here. I've got an orange one in through here, and again, don't mind my transparent paint. This will all work out in the long run. This has got a kind of a more bubbly petal there and kind of a little pointy petal there. That works. We've got this guy right in through here. And again, if this brush is too big for you and your painting style, you could certainly switch to a smaller brush. That's going to be wherever your hand lets you go. My hand lets me paint lots of things with one tool, but if you feel that you need to you know, change brushes, feel free to do so. That's looking good. I've got a little orange one kind of sneaking up in through here. So just gonna, this one is hardly visible, so we're just gonna put an orange area in through there. I've got little orange right in through here. We've got this back one, right, this whole one looks like it might be orange back in through here. I think there's a leaf in front of it too, but I'm seeing lots of orange right now. So I'm just gonna pop this on here, and if I want to put some leaves on it later, I can certainly do that. That looks good. This is going to be one of my white ones. White one, well, white slash pink. This is another orange one right in through here. So I'm gonna leave this little separation line because this flower is really funky the way that it's sitting. And that's another thing, when you're looking at bouquets, there's no predicting what angle you're going to see these petals in. So it's really quite challenging to get them to look the way, you know, that you're seeing them, because they're all just in different angles, and it's like, how do I get that to translate? So sometimes you're just looking for colors. Don't worry about, you know, that odd shape, because it'll work itself out if you follow the color pattern on it. So I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to do these other ones with a base coat of white, just a thin layer of white, just because I want to. You can do any coat, any color that you want. I want some of these edges to really pop out. So, and I want us to be able to see the difference of these as we're painting. So I'm just choosing to do these in white, so we have a kind of a simpler building process. And if you've got weird areas like that in through there, doesn't seem like it's totally filled in to me, I will attend to that as I'm doing my details. But right now, again, I'm just looking to add to identify where are all these flowers, how do I want them to lay on top of each other, who goes in front of who, what type of petals am I doing, and all that good stuff. So that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to just get this little guy in through here. We've got some funky leaves. Lilies are nice and complicated with their varying colors and their varying ways that their petals, their petals just stretch out so far, and they wiggle along the way and they bend along the way. It's fun to learn how to paint different flowers, just because they're all so different, and you can learn a lot, and you can enhance your painting skills just by kind of dissecting a flower and figuring out, oh, where's the dark spots, where's the light spots, and kind of building it that way. So now I've got this one up in through here. This one looks like another little leaf coming out the side that I missed. And then once I've got this, I am going to be using, what am I going to use for the next step? I think actually I'm going to use this, I might use this brush and my small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this bright brush as well as your small brush and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our red flowers and our pink flowers. And those red leaf things too. So anything red and pink. I'm going to be using my medium and my small brush to do this. I'm going to be using red, blue, white, and probably my light red color as well. Oh, and yellow, because there's a little stamen thing on this guy and through here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting a second coat on all of these red and yellow things, and then I'm going to come back and add some nice detail to it. So I'm going to start with these red guys up and through here. I'm actually going to use red with a touch of brown on my brush to deepen this tone and to help a little bit with that opacity. I know that I want to get it pretty darn dark kind of in this center area. So this is red and brown on my brush, and it's okay that I'm bumping into this flower in front of it because I'm going to be finishing that up with its own detail. And so now I'm just kind of bringing this out like this, and you can see how my background is nice and starting to disappear behind that, picking up a little bit more red just to get this edge on here. And then I will come back and hit this with another couple of marks in a minute, but right now I'm going to pick up a little bit more red with whatever that remnants of brown was on my brush, just to hit this back one as well, something like that. These looked very kind of dark and almost shadowy to me, so that looks pretty good. And then while this is kind of setting and drying, I'm going to go down to the other, I've got this one down in through here, so I've got enough brown on my brush. I'm going to pick up just a little bit more red to give this a deep tone in through here. And again, don't worry if yours isn't exactly the same color as mine. Maybe yours is more in the sunshine than mine is. Maybe yours is a different tone on the flower. And again, I'm going to use my small brush in a minute as well. I'm just kind of getting my my thoughts together on here. I've got these little red leaves in through here. I'm just going to throw another layer of red on those with whatever is dirty on my brush, because I've got like a yellowy highlight that's going to happen on them in a minute. So, oops, I should probably use my small brush on that tip. Hold on one second. I made that tip a little bit too. Oops, my brush isn't cooperating. There we go. Oh, that's got to be kind of pointy. There we go. And do the same thing over on this guy. So just a little bit. I'm just doing another layer of the red on top of it. I'm going to use my small brush for that tip, knowing what just happened to me on the last one. So we're just going to take this and just kind of pull it out towards, let's see, a little bit more paint on the brush. That'll help me with my pointiness. There we go. It's going to be, there we go. We got it. Sometimes it just takes a couple of strokes in through there. So these other orange ones, or not orange, red, light red ones, this little tiny guy in through here, I'm just hitting with another layer of red. I want them to be a little bit darker as they go inside the bouquet. So I'm actually going to start with what I'm going to call maroon. So I'm going to take my red and I'm going to add a touch of blue and a touch of white to it. So this is my maroon color on my palette here. How I got to this is red, blue, and just a tiny touch of white, and just spin it together. So this is going to create this nice kind of dark maroony, purpley-ish type of color that I can use as a nice deep base on these pinker flowers. because in the photo they've got some deep hues to them, but I don't necessarily want it to go red like the red flowers. So I'm just doing this to give it a darker hue. So I'm going to pick up some of that purpley type of tone, and now I'm going to just kind of intermingle this into these darker areas in these little flowers in through here. So I'm watching kind of the direction of the petals, and I'm providing that type of brush stroke as these petals kind of come out into the light. So I'm using this as like a shadow kind of color. I'm going to do the same thing. This one is pretty shadowed. It's a lot under the canopy of the cloth. I feel like I want a little bit more blue in there, so hold on one second. I just want to add a little bit more blue to my mixture, so it adds a little bit more of a, oh, that was too much white, a little bit more of a purpley. There we go. That's looking better to me. Sometimes, you know, you think that you got what you want, and then you're playing around with it. It's like, I just want it a little bit different than that. So I just added a little bit more blue. And then again, I'm just kind of watching my photo and bringing these petals in the direction that I'm seeing in the photo. They're really dark on this one, so I'm just gonna bring that darkness right in through there. This guy right here just has dark up at the inside, up and through here. So I'm just gonna kind of pop in a little darkness up in through there. And I feel like I've got kind of the, there's little, I feel like we can see the shape of these petals a little bit more. So they're almost like outlined like this. So I'm just gonna take this and give a little essence of that outline in through there. And then this guy in through here is pretty dark as well. So I'm gonna just kind of get this one pretty dark like that. So that's looking good. I do need to put another layer of light. Ooh, I missed this guy right here. I need to put another layer of lightness on the tips of these guys, on the tips of those flowers, the petals. Again, using this maroon kind of color to just scoot in the shadows in between some of these petals like this. And again, I'm not going necessarily for photorealistic. I'm going for nice representational. So that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I feel like this one here needs to be just a smudge darker in through here. Wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to go back and hit those the red ones, and then I'll come and oh, let me put, before I hit that, let me put the second layer of the light petals on here. So just wash and dry my brush, and I'm gonna pick up my light red, and I'm just gonna give just another little layer onto some of these that seem like they might need a second coat, just to for opacity reasons, so they don't, so I have good coverage. So just kind of going through these lighter ones and just kind of popping on the a second layer of that light red. That one I don't need to, because it's in the dark. It's in the dark. It doesn't get a second layer. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pop some of these guys on, and then on the when I do the final little tidbit of them, I will put some nice brightness to it. So that's looking good. I'm gonna hit this guy now. Washing and drying my brush. I think I'm going in for my small brush now. So washing and drying my brush. I don't really need to do much to this. I'm going to pick up red to start and see if I can get, now I need red plus a little bit of white. So red plus a little bit of white on my brush. There's where the stamen kind of comes out. It's got these almost little curves to the flower like that. That's probably all I need to do. A little bit of lightness up at the top. Again, just kind of following what I'm seeing here. A little bit of lightness up in through here. We'll put that stamen on in a minute. A little bit more red is going on my brush, just to get the colors to pop up in through here. We got that to happen. Nice. And then this little guy up in through here, I just need red plus a teeny tiny touch of white on my brush, just to lighten up this little corner, put more red on there just to, that's looking good. Up and through here. I got this little guy in through here, but I'm gonna hit these leaves here while I'm thinking about it. So I'm going with a little bit of white and a touch of yellow on my brush because they've got this little kind of light streak through them. So white plus a little bit of yellow. Now I'm picking up some more red. So, and again, I'm just kind of looking for what these little color patterns that I'm seeing in these specific pieces of these leaves. You don't always have to do exactly everything you see, but if you can kind of emulate or detect these little markings, these little gradations, that's what's going to make it look more believable. This is nice and dry now, so I can stick that stamen on before I move on to the pink ones. So I'm going to go with, what color am I going to go with? I'm actually going to go with my sand tan, my light tan color to start this off. You'll see how this is going to work, how this will play out. So it starts down in through here with a little curve, and then I'm going to bring it up in through here. And it's just this like long, really long oval type of a shape. I'm going to let that dry. While that's drying, I'm going to go down and finish this little red one here. Just some red paint's probably all I'm going to need on this guy right in through here, just to get another layer. It looks fine to me. I don't need anything more to that. That one's good. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and finish these guys in through here. So washing and drying my brush. I think all I'm going to need is a little bit of my light red and white to finish these off. So light red and white are on my brush at the same time. And really, I think all I'm going to need to do is kind of pop in a little shiny, well, that's too much white. A little bit more of the light red on my brush. That's still too much. Let's back that off. There we go. So a little extra highlight on the tip of these with my light red plus white, and this can help to clean up any of these. And the trick is to just not go too light the whole way. So the more it sticks out to the viewer, these ones that are popping out on the edge, those are the ones that would legitimately have the brightest highlight to them, the ones that are the closest to the viewers. So as you're doing yours, just understand as it gets deeper in there, it will get darker, but you can still have these little kind of tips on it that will that'll stick out to the viewer, and that'll make it look more realistic. So this guy here's got some real bright ones in through here, so I can go a little bit heavier with that white, and I'm just kind of taking from that tip and just pulling it back into that petal because it's brightest at the tip, and then it fades darker. So I'm just looking for my light spots because I've already started these petals on the first go around, so that works for me. And then these guys in through here are kind of to the side, so we're just seeing like the little edges to them like that. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit more white on maybe one or two of these popping out in through here. There we go. This guy over here, I again don't need to do much. I'm just picking up a little bit of my light red. He's going to be hidden, that's good. And then this guy up here is going to get a lot white, a lot of white, plus a little bit of my pink or my light red, and just kind of drawing it down from the tip of the petal down towards the dark area. And again, just trying not to cover up the whole petal. I'm just watching that picture to see what direction they're kind of popping and going in, and just looking for those tips that are sticking out the farthest to the viewer or the closest to the viewer. So that looks pretty good. Maybe pull this down just a little bit more down in through here. And then I need to hit that little stamen and we'll be done with these flowers. So this is going to get some white. I didn't say I was going to use green, but I'm seeing some green. So white, yellow, and green. I'm going to take a tiny bit of green on my brush, and I'm going to put it up in through here, and then wipe my brush off, pick up a little bit of yellow. That's going to come down in through here. Ooh, I'm going orange too. Didn't say I was going to go orange. All these color changes. There we go. And now I'm going to pop a little bit of white on and just bring this nice and light up at the edge. My green made it too green and I wasn't happy. That's where the orange came into play. So as I was doing it, I knew I needed the green, but the green and the yellow didn't turn, the green made my yellow too yellow for me. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of brown as well right now, just to give myself a little shadow at the bottom of this stamen in through here. That looks pretty good. And then you can do any little fiddling adjustments that you feel are necessary. We're going to use both our medium and our small brush for the next step as well. So once you've got this done, you can wash both brushes and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our lilies. I'm going to be using my medium and my small brush. The colors I'm using are orange, yellow, white, red, brown, and green. I think, oh, and that maroon color too. So I'm going to be doing just different color patterns on both of them. The orange ones are just going to have lots of orange and yellows on the inside. If I can detect where the inside is, I'll be doing a dark color. That'll be where the brown comes into play. And then on the white ones, they've got this purpley-ish, maroonish type of center to them. So that's where I'm going to be using that maroon color that we created. So I'm going to do my orange ones first, and then we'll work our way to the white ones. I'm going to start with my medium brush. I'm going to start with this guy over here with a little bit of orange and a touch of brown on my brush, just a little bitty bit of brown on my brush. I'm going to put a kind of a center in here, something like this, because this one I see that there's a dark area in through here, so I'm going to just try and emulate it like that. And then I can also put a little kind of shadow at the bottom of it in through there. I'm going to look and see if there's anywhere else that I can do that, because that worked out well for me. I think that the brown might be turning it too on the greenish side, so I can also add a touch of red to my darkness with my brown. So red, brown, and orange will be my dark shadow color for them. I feel this guy in through here, this is a really big one in through here. So again, this is a tiny bit of red, brown, and that orange, and then just giving it another kind of layer on the main part in through here. I think I need a little bit more brown just to go a little bit deeper with this, and also help with covering any tough areas. I'd probably put a leaf in front of here too, so I'm not terribly concerned about that. Picking up just a little bit more orange, pulling this back, and just kind of blending that out. I'm going to put a little bit of darkness on this guy in through here as well, and then this little piece down in through here gets that. That's good. This guy over here, I'm just going to put another layer of orange on it, because I think I'm going to do more highlights on this one in through here, as opposed to maybe a little bit of shadow. Hold on, let's put a little bit of shadow on these little tips. I think I need my small brush though. This is a small one. I just switched to my small brush just to get these little darker tones in through here. So again, red, orange, and a little bit of brown as my dark tone for this guy in through here. And again, just looking at the picture, seeing where I see those dark marks, that's going to help to separate those petals from one another. So that looks pretty good on that one. And then I've got this guy up in through here. I think I'm gonna use both brushes. Starting with my small brush. There's a bunch of little dark stuff in through here. So again, this is orange, brown, and red that I'm using. Just giving myself some real dark little pockets in through here. It looks like these petals are rippled from whatever. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to use my bigger brush I'm going to pick up orange on my dirty brush and just do a second layer on this guy in through here like that. And that one's going to get a big highlight in a little bit. So I'm not concerned about it being fully rendered, and just put a little bit more of it on there. That's looking pretty good. Maybe just another layer in through here. So while that's kind of settling, I'm going to go hit the white ones. These are all pretty small petals, so I'm just going to use my small brush for these guys. I'm going to start with that maroon color in the dark depths of these, and this is going to help me to identify the insides of these petals and their wackadoodle. So like this petal here kind of crosses over like this, and then we've got some darkness on the inside like this. And again, I'm just kind of watching the color patterns. This one's got a little darkness on the outside. This one has a little ripply darkness on the inside up and through here. It kind of casts a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a shadow or what it is, but it comes down in through here. We've got a big petal coming like this, but there's a little dark section in through here. There's a petal, this big petal right here has lots of this color on it. So we're just going to kind of do a big area like that. And then I've got a little petal coming out this area in through here. So you know, you could really easily get lost, confused, frustrated with these little tiny details on these flowers. But again, I'm just looking for, where do I see the dark? Where do I see this dark magenta, purpley, whatever kind of color that you want to call this? I have this petal that goes up like this, and I'm seeing there's a little bit, I can see the inside of it a little bit in through there. This guy down here, I can see some of this color kind of right in through there. This guy right here, I can see a lot in through here. So almost like the center of the flower is right here, right in this vicinity, and the dark stuff kind of comes out from that center area and then just kind of blends down into the whiter areas at the edge of the flowers. So this one, I think we've got like this. It looks like we're seeing the exterior part of this petal in through there, which might show some of the darkness at that part too. But again, this one's going to be hidden by the curtain, so I'm not terribly concerned about that. That goes there, that goes there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to move up to here. I don't see a whole heck of a lot of this in through here. There's a little weird petal that kind of crosses over there. I'm going to put a little darkness there. I'm going to just bring this down like this. I'm going to bring in some extra white in a minute here, which will help make this make more sense with all these little tiny marks. That looks pretty good. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to do a second layer right now on these white edges just so we can have a little bit more visibility, but I don't want it to go all the way white yet. So I am going to use my sand tan. So this is, I didn't say I was going to use this color on this step, but I am using my sand tan, and I'm going to just kind of give myself a light or a thin layer of it. And while the reason I'm doing this is because I want there to be some of these petals are underneath the bouquet, so they would be a little bit more shadowed, and then some of them need to have that darkness in where they kind of curl around. So I'm going to just use this as my base color or as my darker tone for now, and then I will amp it up with white or darken it with maybe a little bit of gray in the areas that I feel it needs to be adjusted a bit. So I'm thinking that that's looking pretty good. Maybe ripple this little edge in through here. And this is also where you can kind of modify or kind of smooth out those edges or ripple them if you want them to be. Cross them over anywhere. That's looking pretty good. So again, this guy in through here kind of bends out like that, and I don't need it to be 100%. I say that so much, and I really mean it. I mean it from the bottom of my heart, that we don't need to bring anything into a hyper realistic place. It's a matter of bringing it to a place that is comfortable and fun and enjoyable for you as the artist to create. That's where the best artists in the world are enjoying the process. They're creating these masterpieces based on what comes to them intuitively a lot of the time. But you know, a lot of us will learn the fundamentals, which is what I've taught myself, is the fundamentals of painting, and then I take that and adapt it to my style, whatever I want my style to be. And that's, I think, as artists, it's tough to comprehend that, you know, you can do something outside of what you've been taught. You can spin it into something that is pleasurable to your eye. It doesn't always have to be, you know, what somebody's taught you to do line for line, color for color. It's about bringing it into a place that's comfortable to you. I'm going to do this second coat up and through here. This little guy up here is a challenge. So we've got one petal kind of coming out like this. We're seeing the side of this guy in through here. We're going to make this one a little bit bigger, like that. And then we've got up in through here, this one kind of, and again, I don't need to bring this as far to every single petal being exactly where it is, but I do like to, from time to time, just show you guys how there are ways to do a complicated or seemingly complicated painting without getting lost in every single little detail, but still having it true to having it a good representation to that, you know, photo or whatever reference you're doing. That looks pretty good. So while these are setting, I'm going to go finish my orange yellow ones. So washing and drying my brush, I'm going to be using a lot more orange, yellow, and white. So orange, yellow, and a little bit of white are going to be on my brush probably most of the time. So I've got this little guy in through here. I want to make sure that I've got a brightness kind of coming in through here. And I know, again, my orange, yellow, and white is just going to give me this really cool additional tone onto here. So again, not necessary to put every single little mark in there. I do need to put some stamens on the ones that are visible too, but I'm going to save that for another minute. I'm going to do a second layer on here. Right now, again, I'm just going to be flipping back and forth between my orange, yellow, and white to get these guys. Ooh, I missed this guy in through here, so he's gonna get finished right now. he's gonna be a finished on the fly. I missed him on my first go around, so he's getting some orange. He's getting some orange, yellow, and white. He's getting a little bit in through here. I'm gonna use that red, brown, and orange shadow making color that I used earlier because I missed this guy in through here. So we just we're fixing him or finishing him on the fly. There we go. That looks good enough to me. This guy in through here, I don't need to do much. I'm going to just stick some orange on my brush and kind of give another little layer because, again, I know this one's getting hidden underneath my my curtain, so it does not need the full attention to detail. Just another little layer in through there, orange, yellow, and white. Just kind of, and you can layer it on pretty heavy on this last go around. I got this guy right in through here. This has a lot of brightness to it, so I'm just going to kind of have at it and give a nice thick layer of paint in through there. That looks pretty good. Going to put some orange, yellow, and white along these little edges in through here. So this is where I'm going to just kind of ripple this because it looks like there's some little ripply edges to this, to these petals in through here. And again, improvise when you're not sure. They're petals, so they could, again, we could be seeing them in different directions. So don't feel that if I got it this way that you need to get it exactly this way either. That's just, it's not necessary to. If you can somehow get it again to that place that is pleasing to your eye, then that's all you need to do. So just going to add a little bit more in through here. That looks pretty good. I think I got all my orange ones the way that I wanted, maybe a little bit more in through here, my orange / yellow ones. I need just a little stamen in through here, so washing and drying my brush. I'm going to pick up red and brown for the stamens, so red and brown, and just kind of give myself these little guys in through here. This is something that is representational. I don't see them anywhere else on the orange one, so if I don't see it, I'm not going to do it. And I think I need to just finesse this a little bit more. And then I'm going to do my pink, or excuse me, my white ones, white / purpley ones. So again, I'm going to, I want to put another little layer on the inside there. I'm going to use my purple, or my maroon, sorry. I like to just call the same color a whole bunch of different names. Doing a second coat just inside these little guys just so I can get it the way that I want, nice and dark. You could, I think I actually want to put a touch of black. I didn't say I was going to use black either, but I just picked up a little bit of black to get these insides just a little bit darker. So this is maroon plus a teeny tiny bit of black paint, just to, again, amp up this contrast in through here. That looks pretty fancy. I feel like I want to do the same thing down in through here. Again, just making sure I have a second coat. That's mostly the primary goal for me right now. And then I'll do the little details on the tips. I like that. Maybe just a little bit more right in through here. And then I'll do my little details. So my little tip details are going to be with mostly white, and maybe a little bit of yellow and white on that guy there. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm picking up a little bit of white, and here we go. Here comes the magic. Sometimes it takes a little while to get there, but here it comes. So like this guy right in through here that's poking out, I'm going to take my white and just give this brightness in through here. But I don't need that white to go the whole way. This is just the little edges that are popping out. I can take this and do it right along that edge, and maybe bring this in through here, and then just kind of fade it out like that. So we've got that one sticking out. I want this guy up in through here to really pop, so I just put more white on my brush in through here. So I started with the tan because I wanted to have the dimensional element in these little petals, and if I had just gone white off the bat, it wouldn't have allowed me to get these different values in here. This guy right here, I don't want to go all the way white, so I just wipe my brush off on my paper towel, and I'm doing kind of a thinner layer of white so it'll make it look a little bit darker. I also want to put a shadow underneath this petal. I just picked up some brown, and I'm going to put just a little shadow underneath this guy, this little petal, because it's like leaning over. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit more white. So again, just these little details. If you can see the nuances, paint them if you want to, but they're not totally necessary. But to get that believable kind of accent to it, sometimes we go the extra mile. So I'm digging that, and we still have our leaves to go. So, you know, if you're feeling like, you know, and this one in through here, I don't necessarily want this one to go all the way white either. Ooh, I'm going to use white with my light gray. I didn't say I was going to use light gray either, but I'm using light gray. All these color changes. I want this to have these edges, but I don't want it to go all the way white. So this helps me to do that. So just using a little bit darker shade of white can help you to achieve these little tonal shifts as you're going into the shadows, or you're going, you know, out from the shadows into the light. So knowing that you can make those little adjustments will help amp up your painting. I just added a touch of white there, and then just a little bit of white on the edges in through here, just, you know, to get it to pop a little bit. And then I'm thinking that that's all I need to do for these guys. Oh, I have one last one up here. Sorry about that. I missed this guy who's up in the air. I wipe my brush off. I'm picking up a little bit of white and yellow to get this little base of the flower in through here. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of white to get these edges of this flower in through here. White on my dirty brush, so if you're still detecting a little bit of yellow, that's because I still have a little bit of yellow on my brush. And then just making sure that I color the whole thing. I'm going to get this little edge over in through here. And then once I've got this done, I am going to be using probably my small and my medium brush for the next step. So I'm thinking that this is looking pretty good. So I'm thinking that I'm going to call it on this one. So once you've got this done, again, we got all these little cleanup things that we're going to do with the leaves. So you can make any adjustments to your flowers, put your small brush away, or wash and dry your small brush, get your small and your medium brush out, and ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our foliage. I'm going to be using my number 6 bright and my small number 3 round. The colors I'm going to use are green, black, yellow, and white. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to try and put in or identify all of my dark areas, make sure that I've got this nice and deep darkness in through here, and start to finesse all the little areas around the flowers. So like this flower in through here looks really messy to me. I feel like I need to just clean it up with some dark foliage that's touching it. So those are the things that I'm going to be doing. And then I'll be finessing like the little tips of the flower, or the tips of the foliage. You can also add more stuff too. So like I'm noticing that there's a couple of pieces outside of this flower that I probably want to put in place, so I'll do that too. I'm going to start with my bright brush, and then I'll move into my small brush. I'm going to first start with a little bit of black paint on my brush to get these deep dark areas as finessed as I want them to be. You can even pull up little shadows in between the flowers. I am going to have overlapping. I'm going to have some flower or some leaves overlapping some of my flowers. So I definitely want to be mindful of that. I just wanted to crisp up the edge of that flower in through there. And I might not even use this brush for this. I might switch really quickly, but right now I'm going to just kind of try and tackle my bigger areas that I feel would benefit me to just go pretty darn dark in them. I feel like I want this area to just have a little bit more darkness in through here as well. And I'm not going to cover up all of my greenery with black. That's not my point here. My point here is to just kind of work through what I have. Do I want any more? And do I feel that I could use some shadows or some additional leaves? Like I feel like I want one up and through here. So I just wanna, this one I feel like could have been shaped a little bit differently, but again, you don't need to beat yourself up over every leaf looking exactly like it does in the photo. So Michelle, stop beating yourself up. I'm talking to myself right now, not you. So I'm trying to just make sure that I don't overpaint. There's no need to overpaint. I want a couple of little dark areas in through here. You can also use this as an opportunity to maybe shape a little leaf. So I just shaped that leaf in through there, maybe with a little bit of a shadow on it. So you can, it's fun when you can start to see the efforts that you've put in this whole time, see them kind of coming to fruition. So right now I'm feeling like I'm developing these neat little leaves, and everything that I did on the flower side is paying off with me having these colorful areas around these leaves. I'm putting little shadows underneath my petals right now onto the leaves, so that will help make those pop out. I do feel like I should probably switch to my smaller brush. This whole area again and through here is just going to be hidden underneath the curtain, so I don't need to do much to that. So I think I'm going to switch brushes right now. Do I have enough coming out over here? This looks good. Yes, small brush. Going to the small brush. So I do want to, I'm going to continue on my shadow quest with my small brush, just because it's going to be easier for me. That bright brush was getting a little bit too large. So I'm going to just take it, and I'm going to take this small brush and just kind of make sure I have all my little areas kind of accounted for. The petals can cast shadows on the things that are next to them. So if you're having difficulty seeing a particular leaf or a petal or something of that nature, just adding that little bit of darkness, that little dark contrast in between. Maybe I've got a little bit more darkness down at the bottom of this flower. You know, you could even just kind of scoot up a couple of little shadow makers in between those. I feel like this could be a little bit darker in through here, maybe a little bit darker in through here, underneath this flower, in through here. So again, finding where you feel those darker shadows would benefit. So if I want this flower to pop out a little bit more, I can sneak a little shadow in between there, and then all of a sudden I'm going to see that flower pop out a little bit more. I can see that I didn't really identify this area as well as I probably should have. So I'm just going to sneak a little shadow in between one flower to the next, and that helps me to close up that area, as well as add a little bit more dimension onto that flower as it's coming out from underneath that first one. So just little tricks of the trade can help you to get those petals to pop out more, to get them to be more visible to the viewer. Even right in through here, I'm just popping a little bit more darkness right in between this guy, right in between this guy, because I know that this one sits in front of that one. So I feel that it would and could have some really nice shadows in through there. I want to have a couple more leaves coming down in through here. So I just picked up some green and black on my brush at the same time, and I'm just going to pop in a couple more leaves, just the little points of them, just space fillers, if you will. Put another one in through there. So now I'm going to start picking up my green oxide with my black on my brush, just to kind of make sure I have a good second layer on some of this stuff and everything is put where I want it to be. And then I will start to add some highlights. This looks pretty good in through here, like this. I think I want another layer on through here. And then again, just kind of seeing where they are. I feel like I want a little bit more in through here. That looks pretty good. And then this needs a little bit more green on it. And I'm gonna add a little bit of a highlight in a minute, but this green, the green oxide that I'm using right now on top of some of these darker areas, starts that transition into the highlights that I'm going to be putting on in a minute. And little things like sticking a little corner out, that will, you know, sticking it past the flower, that's going to help add those little pops of dimensional element to it that, you know, can easily take it from a simple you know, two-dimensional type of a painting into a 3D, holy cow, look at all the detail on this. So I can take this and even just identify some additional leaves, like maybe I want one kind of crossing over this this lily in through here. So you can add leaves even where they weren't. You can just add little edges to the leaves. So just know that I feel like I want a big light one coming out in through here. So I'm just gonna right now make myself a big huge leaf. So I will add a highlight on it in a little bit, but I'm seeing it in the photo. I'm like, oh, I like that one. I see up in through here that there's some a big leaf kind of in through here. So even though I didn't account for all of these exact leaves in my footprint of that background when we did the initial layer of the foliage, I can certainly do it now. I can certainly, well, it looks like these leaves are kind of like clipped off. Weird. I don't know if I've ever seen leaves that are like flat on the edge like that. Interesting. So again, just because I didn't include it on that original footprint doesn't mean I can't include them now. It just, that original footprint just kind of gave me the initial place to start, where I wanted my my little flowers to go, or have those peekaboo spots filled in. That was one thing that I knew was going to be important, and I feel that that is important when doing bouquets, is that everything kind of overlaps and intermingles, and you need those space fillers. That's, you know, whenever you get a bouquet of flowers given to you, there's always lots of greenery and stuff in between. So why not account for that when you're doing your painting? So this little guy up and through here, he kind of looks like a little character to me. And I'm not putting each piece in exactly where it's supposed to go. I'm just having fun giving it something similar, but nothing exact, which is fine by me. We're going to put one here, we're going to put one here, and if you keep bumping into your flowers like I'm bumping into them, you can always modify it. Right in through here is a big yellow one, yellow-ish one, so that's why this was separated in through here. So we're going to put a green leaf right here, and then there's going to be a big yellowish one right crossing over there. So that's going to be good right there. And you fill in this little gap. There we go. Let's see, over on this right side, we've got a couple bright ones in through here. These little square edged ones, which are really fun to me. Never even thought of those again. So something like this. Ooh, I've got a big leaf that kind of comes back. Ooh, that's going to be a big one. Let's see, it almost comes out as far as this one. All right, let's go for a couple of big ones in through here. So this is going to be challenging in the sense of we've got the curtain that's going to be coming in front of it. I'm okay with that because I know we're gonna have some fun learning how to put the curtain in front of this and behind it. So it's going to be a fun little task that we're going to do. But right now I want to get this big green leaf in through here. So that kind of goes to there, and then this kind of goes right about to here. That's fine by me. And then coming down here, I don't even care about this stuff. I'm just gonna maybe put a little, I got a little piece in through here. This will be popping out a little bit. Maybe just point it. And then in through here, you can put, so the other curtain kind of comes right, it's gonna cross over this area. So this little area in through here, if I wanna fill it in with like the little points of some leaves, I can certainly do that. I can kind of just give the impression of the little points. So you can pick a couple spots, make almost like these triangular type of marks. So it's making it look like we're seeing just the tip of the leaves. You can even, I had the start of a couple kind of crossing over this flower. So you can certainly put a couple in front of that. Let's see, this little guy here, this actually has a big leaf in front of it. So we can put a big leaf right in through here. And again, this is just my first kind of go around on these guys. I will add a little bit more information in a bit. I'm going to just put, I'm going to put a little bit of black with some green on this guy in through here. Because this is going to be pretty dark. And again, I'm just watching my photo and I'm saying, oh, there's a dark thing right over there. That's a dark little leaf. Let me account for that. These, I'm putting them in front of some of the other flowers because that's what I'm seeing. So I'm allowing for myself to have fun. If I see it and I want to do it, I do it. If I don't see it, I'm okay with that. So it just provides you that liberty. So that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to go around and add some little highlights. So I'm going to make myself a light green color, which I have magically done on my palette. So this is my light green color in through here. How I got to this was green and a lot of yellow and then a little bit of white. So that's green and yellow. And then I'm going to add just, oh, I need a little bit more yellow than that. And then I'm going to add a tiny bit of white. And that's going to give me my nice, almost like a lime green type of a color. So I'll use this in conjunction with my green oxide, but I'm going to definitely hit some areas that I feel should have some of this color accounted for. So we've got some down in through here, and you can do varying tones. I'm just doing this light green color as a simplistic kind of way to incorporate a lighter tone into these leaves, but you could certainly go for many different tones. I'm seeing that there's, you know, you could have some almost bluish tones, you could have some dark, you know, forest green kind of tones. So wherever you know, again, the amount of detail that you want to put into these is totally up to you. Picking up a little bit of green oxide just to get to this little guy in through here. Some more of my light green color. Again, as I'm doing these now, I can either do just the edges of them. If I want it to look like the edges are popping out, you can just kind of, you could do the whole thing. You could do additional new little pops of the green. You could do, like this one was pretty light green, so I'm just, oops, it went into the other one that I didn't want it to. So you could do another layer on the entire leaf and make it green. So just, again, edges, full on the whole thing. We're seeing these all at different angles, so that's what's going to give it this really interesting appearance when you start adding these different tones to it. So again, I'm just using my light green right now. I think I should probably shift into a little bit more yellow as I go up towards the top. So I just picked up yellow. It looked like there was a little bit of red in it as well, which is totally fine with me. So I'm gonna, especially this leaf right in through here, yeah, definitely just added a bit of more of a yellowish orange tone to it, so it sets itself apart. I'm putting a little bit more white on my brush to get this one to pop just a little bit more. There we go. That one was definitely one that was visible to me. So, and I'm going to use this color just to pop in a little bit up in through here. So any variation of light green, light orange would totally work. I need to pick up a little bit of green and black just to get this little guy up in through here because he's darker and I haven't finished painting him. So I'm just going to do a second coat on in through there. And then these guys over here, I'm just going to pick up that light green and my green oxide. That was too light, so my green oxide, and you know, just various tones all over the place. So just knowing that you don't, I'm just picking up actually I'm going to pick up my light green plus brown to give myself a different tone here. So giving yourself different tones throughout this is what's going to make it look the most natural. So as you're going through the process, if it's not looking natural, if it's looking kind of flat, it might just be because you have too much of the same color on there. Picking up a little bit more black and green oxide. So if you have too much of the same color, I mean, all of this, there's so much green on here, and finding that balance of the different tones of it is how it's going to look a little bit more natural. You know, over here it could be a little bit more yellowish green. Over here it could be a little bit darker green. So being able to kind of discern those different shifts in one color, especially when you have something that is so heavily one color of green, being able to detect those nuances is what's going to help you through your painting process. I could even go green, oxide, and white to give myself another tone of green. So again, I'm just kind of showing you these variations, so as you go through yours, you can say, oh, all right, well, mine is too green here. It is to the same color over here, and it does look a little flat. How do I fix it? Well, just pull in another shade of green and in a different area, and that will help to kind of twist the view into a more believable kind of one. I really like this green and the green oxide and white tone that I just created, so I'm using that over here as well. So this is just green oxide and white, helping me get some little edges to these. And then I would just kind of fiddle with it a little bit more if you feel that you need any more finessing. And then we're going to be using our bright brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, if you can ever stop, this is one of those steps where I could, you know, be working on it for days. But if you can find a way to stop yours, we're going to be using the bright brush for the next step. So you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the curtain. I'm using my medium medium bright brush. The colors I'm using, I'm going to use white and my light gray, and I'm probably going to use little touches of other colors as well, because as I'm looking at the photo, I'm seeing like little pink hues or little yellow hues. So I might use a touch of red in with my mixture. I'm going to be using a lot of watered down or thinned out paint to create the layers of the fabric. But first what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in place that fold or that extra piece that kind of comes over here. Now, mind you, my canvas is pretty dry right now. You want yours to be pretty dry as well. And I'm going to be painting over some of these pieces, like these little leaves here, or I'm going to be bumping into them anyways. But I will come back and make any corrections that I feel are necessary. So this little piece that I'm going to put over, I'm going to start it the same way that I started the other pieces of the curtain, which is the light gray plus a little bit of water. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of water with my light gray and just a little bit on my brush at a time, just so I can kind of map this out. It kind of goes behind it. I think it's actually tied to the pole somewhere in this vicinity, and then this is just a little piece of the curtain kind of coming over and kind of rippling down this side and in front of here. So I'm just kind of rippling the edges of it, and then it kind of turns around like this and comes down in through there. So I'm going to do that to the other side. So again, a little bit of gray plus a touch of water on my brush, and so it comes it's all behind here. So this whole area behind these guys is part of the I'm going to call it a ribbon, I know I am, part of the curtain, and then it kind of comes down in through here. It does scoop behind these two leaves, but if you're not confident in your skipping ability to skip that, then just paint right over it, and then you can put the leaf right back on top of it. So that's my fail safe. If I'm not feeling comfortable with skipping it in order to make it look natural, I'll paint the piece of cloth on top of it and then come back and make that correction or put those leaves back on top of it. So I need to reload because I'm running out of paint. So again, just a little bit of gray plus my water, and just going to bring this down in through here and watching my photos coming somewhere in through here. So this whole area, I'm just going to give this thin kind of transparent layer like this. So that's where I'm starting the whole curtain, with that transparent layer. I think I want to bump this out just a little bit more. Yeah, that looks good. Something like that. And now that I've got that in place, now I can start working and finessing the rest of it. So I'm going to go up here because I know that this is pretty darn dry. If you're looking at the photo reference, it is pretty darn dark down as it meets the flowers down and through here. So you can use your light gray and you can add something to it. So if I use my light gray, I can add a teeny tiny touch of black paint and give myself a little bit darker shade of it. I kind of got some right in through here, which is a little bit darker. And again, just a little bit of water on your brush, not much, but a little bit. And this is going to go behind this guy in through here. So this is where I was saying that I'm seeing lots of tones, different tones in the curtain. I don't know if it's reflecting part of the flowers or something with the photograph or whatever it is. I'm seeing lots of different tones. I keep adding a little bit of moisture to my brush so I can bring this all the way up in through here. So I'm going to start adding in a second here. I'm using just that light gray. I added a teeny touch of black with a smudge of water on my brush so I can get this kind of a little bit deeper of a tone. And you're noticing I'm not doing the whole thing. So I'm leaving some thinner spots where it's lighter in color, a little bit darker down in through here. You can hardly see the sky behind this area in through here, so I'm going to get it nice and dark like that. Now I'm going to start kind of incorporating this color wherever else I see it. So I see it in a couple of these little creases here, so I'm going to use a little bit of that darker version of the gray plus a touch of water. And I've already got a couple of little spots in through here. So I am going to cross them over my this exterior piece because you're going to see some of this stuff behind that exterior piece. So I'm just kind of pulling a little bit darker of a gray tone down in through here, maybe down in through here. And as it dries, you'll see how much darker it gets. That's looking pretty good. You can even darken some of what I have as, you know, these tones in through here, whatever speaks to you, feel free to do so. I'm going to put a little bit darker up in through here. And now I'm going to start incorporating some other tones. So I've got this like darker version of gray. I'm going to add a tiny touch of red paint to it. Just a itty bitty bit like that with a little bit of water, and you're going to see what happens on my canvas because I'm going to be using this almost like little hint of a different tone. So just a little tiny bit watered down. Think of this as like a glaze of sorts, and I can just kind of add it right on top of here. It's going to give it this beautiful like shimmery look to it. And again, I can't stress enough, I hardly have any paint on my brush and it is watered down. So I am using it in what's referred to as like a glaze. So it's a very thinned out. It's just kind of popping in these little hints of this additional color. I'm going to do the same thing down below. And again, where do I see it? I'm just kind of seeing it underneath here. I don't know. That actually flower is, that tip of that flower is hidden underneath a whole bunch of stuff. So we're just going to pop this on in through here. And I'm going to start using some white tones in a minute, but right now just kind of getting these deeper tones that I see. And when I'm doing fabric, it's a slow building process for me because I don't want to overdo my colors. I want to, you know, kind of emulate those ripples in the folds. I'm not doing every fold exactly as it is in the photo, but at least I can get some sort of semblance of the direction of the fabric and all that good stuff. I think that looks pretty good. I don't want to bring it too dark over on that right hand side because that's where the magic is going to happen with our bright sunshiny area of the fabric. So I'm just bringing it a little bit in through here. All right, so now I'm going to start, without washing my brush, use a little bit of white paint. Would it help if I had some clean white paint on my palette? Hold on, let me just move some of this dirty stuff over. I know I've got clean white underneath it. There we go. Sometimes that's what you got to do on your palette. If you don't want to waste paint and you need to find some clean stuff, sometimes just lift that layer off the top. Here we go. Look at all that clean white I have now. So I'm not washing my brush though. I am going to pick up a little bit of clean white plus a touch of water. Again, I'm building. So a little bit of clean white plus a touch of water. I'm going to take this over here on this right edge. Because I know what color is on my brush right now, I had a little bit of that almost pinkish gray color. This is going to add this beautiful luminescent value right underneath that, or right onto that fabric. So again, just a tiny bit of white. I've got a little kind of accentuated crease in the fabric somewhere in through here. So I'm going to try and capture that. Just bring it a little bit down into there. Just making sure this is going to be nice and soft up at the top. And if your first layer dried too dark, you can just kind of add this little extra lightness on top of it. But again, very little bit of paint, very little bit of water, just kind of allowing for that to happen. I'm picking up a little bit more white plus water on my dirty brush. So again, I probably have a little bit of that pinkish hue on my brush, and I'm going to go over in through here, start adding these lighter tones, something like this. I'll get to the exterior one in a minute. So again, just white plus water on my dirty brush. This is a bright area over here, so I'm just going to kind of build it slowly so I have those tones in there of the colors that I'm seeing. Oops, so I'm working with dirty white. I'm trying to get some clean spots in here. Oh, I see some in the corner that's clean. There we go. We'll use some of that clean stuff from the corner. And I've got, so I've got my dark areas. I'm going to just kind of pop this lighter tone in between them. So this is going to show those gradations in the fabric as it's kind of rippling. So again, water plus white. I'm going to do this. I want to bring this down here too. Bring it right behind this guy and through here. So again, this is that area where I'm going to have to probably do a little touch up on that flower, because I want this to transcend behind it like that. That looks pretty good. And then we've got definitely some brighter stuff kind of coming in through here. So again, I'm building my way to that light. I don't want to overdo it too quickly, because I want to see these different values within this fabric. So I am slowly building my way there. I've got some in through here. I'm going to put a little bit on this exterior piece right now. So white plus a little bit of water. This does something funky up in through here. So we're going to try and emulate this. It kind of turns like this and then scoots behind those, but I'm going to put those back on top later for ease of painting purposes. Like this, just bringing a little bit brighter area down in through there, and then I need it even whiter right in this area, right in through here. So this is going to be a pretty light area. And again, if you need to, build yours slower than I'm building mine, please do. You don't have to go at the speed I'm going at. There's a bright edge to this in through here. I build mine at the speed that I'm comfortable with. You build yours at the speed you're comfortable with. There's a fold in through here, so I'm going to just kind of take this and bring it up in through here. And you can still see that flower underneath, because I am being cautious with the quantity of paint that I'm using. And I like using this brush. Sometimes I'll do this process with a bristle brush, but I knew I was going to have a lot of little intricate kind of bends and twists and stuff in here. So this brush kind of gave me a little bit better versatility. I see a little kind of ripple in through here. And because I'm using the water on my brush, it's allowing for me to kind of blend as I go, leave these soft edges, get the brightness where I want it to be. I want this to be a little bit brighter on this guy. And now I'm going to start going in for some white. So, let me get this a little bit brighter back here too, before I start adding heavy white. And again, I will put these little leaves back on, but I definitely wanted to make sure that I've got that in where I want it before I start Oh, so pretty. Okay, I'm going in for some white, some heavier white with less water on my brush now. Definitely over here on this right-hand side. And again, I'm still wanting it to blend in with wherever those darker areas were. So as you do this, just, you know, instead of thinking it needs to be a bright line of white, just think of it as being a transition from the bright side to, you know, where that darker side was. And if you want it a little bit lighter but not all the way white, just add a touch of water to your brush, and you can put just a little glaze of white on it, and that'll make it a little bit lighter without going all the way white. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to put some real bright stuff on over here if we can find it on the palette. So definitely right in this area. This is going to be probably my brightest area. Oh, that was a big little chunk there. So I'm going to take this and just kind of move it out like this and get it to blend out. I definitely have a nice bright area up at the top. So as I'm doing this, again, I'm thinking, okay, I know I want this area to be really bright, but it's this transparent fabric that's going to fade off, and where it's, you know, less, where it doesn't hit the sunshine the most, or where it's thinner, it's taking on those colors underneath. So even though I have this spot really bright and it's going and buckling or kind of being bunched up underneath those flowers, I still can have it go into some darker areas as well. And I can just keep adding this white until, and then the thickness of it, until I get it as bright as I want it in these particular areas. Like, I know I'm going to keep amping up these little edges until they're as bright as I want them to be, because I want this to be really, really bright. And if you get to a point and you're like, I just can't get it white enough, which sometimes can be a struggle, especially if you're working with transparent paint, or you're working with a dark background, which we're doing both of those right now. So if it comes to that point where it's not seeming to be bright enough for you, there are little tricks that you can do. You can add a different hue of a color within the white. So you could add a touch of blue, or a touch of yellow, or a touch of red within that white, and make it stand out next to the actual white. So what I mean by that is, you can, like what we did up top, I added like a little pinkish hue to some of this gray, which will make my white stand out even more. So if yours is turning all white, it just means that you need more contrast next to it somewhere. So even if, like, I'm just adding more white over in through here, because I'm feeling like this isn't bright enough for me. So I want to add more white over in this area, and it's playing off of the dark tones that are next to it. So as I go through this process, you know, I know, oops, that was a little yellow. So now we're gonna have a little yellow in it. So I know for me that as I'm building these, I can definitely just keep adding to those tonal values in order to add to the contrast and add to the brightness of a particular object. So if this isn't looking bright enough to me, I need to add more contrast somewhere else. I need to add darker tones next to it, or lighter tones. So that's the name of the game when it comes to having things visible and seeing them enough. Oh, this is looking pretty. I'm adding some more white. It is funny how I'm having this fun challenge with finding white on my palette right now. So I'm just adding some more white, maybe a little bit more water on my brush, just to get that to spread out a little bit more. And as I'm seeing it going into here, it gets a little bit darker. So I'm going to allow it to get darker and not fuss with it too much. And then I'm just going to try and get these areas where I feel are lighter. I'm just amping up that value, bringing them a little bit lighter, and then at the end, maybe I didn't say I was going to use my small brush, but just to show you what I mean here, I can take really heavy amount of white, and I can just kind of amp up that little exterior edge if I want just that little tiny bit of the edge. The thicker my white is, the more vibrant it's going to be, but it can only go so white. And once it's totally white, it's not getting any whiter than that. So just know that if you are at that point where it's not getting any whiter, then you might need to do something with the value, the contrast in your values. And then I'm going to keep playing with this, but I do want to, while I'm thinking about it before I go, I want to just show you real quick to put these leaves back in place. So I'm just going to put my green and a little bit of green and black, and I'm just going to paint them right back on top of here. So I can still see a little ghost image of them underneath. So this is just going to bring them right back in front. And if you need to use that black to help with the opacity, you're going to put this one back in top, and you can just fiddle with these as you want. Put one here, one here. If you could even, if you didn't already have these, you could add them now. They're going to just add that little extra punch of that additional dimensional element. If you've got one thing clearly visible sitting in front of another thing, that just amps it up for you. And then once you've got this done, we're going to be using this same small brush for the next step. Just got to get this little petal in through here. Ooh, I missed my stamens too on these little flowers in through here. I'm just going to pick up some of my oak color, give a couple little stamens in through there. That means I missed the ones at the bottom too. There we go. Oh, we got them in through here. There we go. Sometimes you notice things later on in life. So now I think that's going to do it for me. I'm going to call it. We got one more little step left to go, and it's going to be with the small brush, so you can wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. I'm going to use my small brush. I'm going to sign in the bottom left-hand corner with white paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you could, of course, sign yours with your first name or the date, or you could use a special symbol. Whatever you'd like for your identifying mark is up to you, because it's your painting. And that's going to do it for this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a beautiful summer image, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.